Okay, so let's discuss maror. Maror are bitter herbs, not herbs, herbs. We're on page 73. Let's have a look at the Passover Haggadah says. Maror zeh shanach ochlem. Al shem, why am I eating this maror? Ashbaruch matzrim et chayim avatim Mitzrayim. Because they embittered our lives. What is they embittered, I should say, embittered our lives. That is what the Mitzrayim did, and therefore we take a part of that and we eat it. This actually was what was eaten together with the Korban Pesach and the matzah originally in Mitzrayim. What is used today as maror as a side point. So,
I don't know what it's called. I just call it maror.
Yeah, but what is it? What are we eating to fulfill this?
Lettuce.
So nowadays we have like a lettuce is used, and it has been for tradition for quite a long time. My in-laws have a tradition of having horseradish, which they grind down Erev Pesach, eat until the tears flow from their eyes. That actually is not maybe so great because you're not going to be in pain from it, but it's meant to be slightly bitter. Lettuce has traditionally been used because it starts off
Sweet, but then it becomes
sweet,
bitter.
and then more you chew into it, it becomes a bit more bitter as you go through it. So too, the Galut of Mitzrayim started off well, with the Jewish people being successful, with Yosef, and then got worse and worse. Okay, so generally speaking, that's what's used. We'll see more about the actual contents of all this. Okay, so why do we do it? Shneimar, Vayimaru et chayim, they made our lives difficult, by making bricks, and all work in the field. It was extremely hard work. Says the Sfas Emes on this piece of Haggadah. Turn over your pages. Page 74. Yesh lama tamaror. Maybe it suggests a reason of the maror, as we have already written, to show a belief that even in the exile, and there's a suffering for the good, and to give praise for them, because it's still part of the Pesach Seder. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a covenant with us. He said, I'm going to take you out, make you into a nation. After the exile, the children of Israel became a new nation, like a convert is a new child. So too, we learn that the exile itself was all made for the benefit of the Jewish people. Okay, what does that mean? Look at the next statement. So I took you out of Egypt. I would say to be a God to you, refers even to the descent into exile. So it started off quite well. We went down because there was resources in Egypt that did not exist at that time. There was a famine in Eretz Yisrael. That's what led us down into Mitzrayim. Everything that occurred, which started off well, ended up challenging, but it was all part of the same process. Okay? So we look at it and think, oh, it was such a bad time, but we're saying even the maror experience, the mar, the bitterness that came with Mitzrayim, ultimately was for the good because it led to the redemption. Okay? So that's a principle of life. We learn that from the maror as well, that even though we went through tremendous challenges and difficulty, it ended up good. Yes?
What does it say?
Maror. Embittered our lives. Okay. Okay, so even the difficulty and challenge, we still eat them because we eat maror as part of the redemption. Korban Pesach, I understand. Matzah, I understand. Maror, it's bitter. So it's saying true. It is bitter, but that was necessary in order to have our full redemption. Are we clear on this? So we still relive the embittered moments of the Pesach Seder. Okay, let's talk about...
But is it a principle for life? That's what they're saying?
Yeah, it's a principle for life.
That we have to suffer in order
that there is an amount of suffering that goes. In other words, we look at the matzah, which is redemption, which is good, and we talk about the staying away from chametz, which was bad, and we talk about the korban pesach, which was good. So what's the maror being part of it? So we're saying the maror, the bitterness, was part of the redemption. It wasn't just stumped bad. Things aren't just bad. It's a bad in order to get to the good. That's the idea.
Like, is that going back to the stages of, like, you were at the lowest of the low?
Yeah, part of it. It's not just a physical servitude, it's a spiritual servitude as well. Okay, let's move. Now let's talk about the 4 cups of wine, which is a rabbinic mitzvah we do at the Pesach Seder. So let's talk about the number 4. What does the number 4 represent? What is number 4? It comes up again and again in the Pesach Seder. Obviously, it represents something.
4 banan, 4 questions.
4 sons, 4 questions, yes? Right, the 4 sons. But why the number 4? What does the number 4 itself represent? Is it good? Is it not good? Is it a good number, a bad number? How do we relate to that number?
Like a table that's stable.
Very, very good. We compare it to 4 legs of a table. It's great stability. That's why there are 4 ima'ot, but only 3 avot. It's absolute stability and continuity, I think. Continuity. Let's have a look at the number 4 when it comes into play in Mitzrayim. Lechem, therefore, it says in Shemot, Vav Zayin, Amar b'nei Israel, and Hashem, say to the Jewish people, I am God. Votzeiti etchem, I took you out, mitachat sivlo Mitzrayim. So that's number 1. Vahotzeiti. Let's do this together. 1. I took you out. That's the Hotzeiti. 2. V'etzalti. I saved you. It's Hashem speaking. I saved you. That's the Hitzalti. So Tzeiti, Hitzalti, that saved you. V'ga'alti, I gave you a redemption. I redeemed you. Write these down, please. Ga'alti, that's the Geula. And number 4 is L'kachti, and I took you to me. Right? L'kachti, I took you to me. So we have 4 expressions of redemption. I took you out, Hotzeiti. I saved you, Itzalti. I redeemed you, Ga'alti. I took you to me, L'kachti. These are references to 4 different parts of the Geula, redemption from Mitzrayim. These 4 represent 4 different aspects, 4 different parts of the redemption. There is a 5th one, which was later on called Veheveti, and I took you to Eretz Yisrael. Just by the way, look at these 4 words. These 2 are out of order, no?
Why?
This says, Votzeiti, I took you out, and then it says, Vitzalti, I saved you.
Right,
That's wrong. First of all, you save someone, you take him out of prison, and then you take him out. These 2 are out of order. No?
Yeah.
Why is the right order? Tell me why it is.
Then
She's talking. Hila, yeah, go ahead, hit it.
Because Hotzeiti is he literally took them out. You weren't like saved when you were still leaving.
But Hashem took us out. What does this take you out? Hashem took you out.
But the act of taking out isn't saving you, it's just taking out. You only save them after when they were in the desert.
So what is this piece of it? You're saying this is the...
That's after, because you weren't saved like as you're leaving. You're saved after.
Okay, Sarah, very good.
So to add on to that, maybe Yom Tov, like when the Egyptians were chasing them.
So these are definitely different parts of it. Even though Hila, you're right in the end, it is the right order, but it does seem out of order. First of all, I'm going to save you, and then I'm going to take. First of all, you save someone from prison, then you get him out of Afghanistan or something. You know what I'm saying? Seems to be out of order. Yeah, you have an answer?
Also, maybe that the Jews, like, they wanted, in the beginning, they wanted to go back to Egypt, and they were confused why Hashem.
That was later. That's once they got out. We're not even out yet. We're still in Mitzrayim at this point. We're still in Mitzrayim at this point. What's going on over there? Yes, Jordan.
I'm just wondering, do you remember when like it talks about Abraham and how he left his homeland and his house and like
That is
it,
true.
and it's like the wrong order and then is the reason for
That's
that?
the Ramban. He says that's in increasing levels of difficulty. It could be related to this. I'm not sure. It could be related. Yeah.
Maybe because they were so impure when they took them out, and then they saved it. Like first you had to take them out so their level of impurity could improve, and then that's when they were saved.
That actually is what the Maharal says. He says, and I see someone said over here, V'tzeiti means I took you out spiritually of your servitude and physically of your servitude. They were free people. Once the makot began, the plagues began, they were free. So they were taken out physically, but also they weren't even emotional or spiritual or physical or psychological slaves anymore. Then he took them out. So this has to precede this. This is the physical Vitzal that took you out of Mitzrayim, literally led you out of the borders of Egypt. But even before then, there had to be a mindset they were taken out of, and that's the Hotzeiti. First of all, I have to take you out, men, because if you're stuck in this thing of mentally that's been taken out, and physically they were not slaves anymore for the last 8-9 months of being in Mitzrayim, and then Hashem saved us physically by taking us out of
No.
Egypt.
I don't understand. Like you rephrase.
V'otzeiti means I took you out while they were in Mitzrayim. They were taken out from being slaves. That's one answer physically. The other is Hashem took them out of the mindset, the spiritual and psychological trappings they were in, right? While they were still in Mitzrayim. And then he took them out. So they could bring a Korban Pesach, they could enjoy the plagues without being slaves. Okay? So that's the Otzeiti. So they were still in Mitzrayim, but they were still considered to be taken out. V'etzeiti. And then Vitzalti saved them physically and led them out of Mitzrayim. Let's have a look at the... Yeah?
Wait, what?
I'll say it again. It seems out of order. First of all, it says I took you out and then I saved you. First of all, save someone, take him out of prison, and then you save him, right?
Right.
So he's saying this Otzeiti is two possibilities. One possibility is Hashem took them and freed them while they were still in Mitzrayim. Because for the plagues, they were no longer slaves. The Mitzrayim were too busy dealing with their own stuff. That's one answer. The other answer, the Maharal of Prague says, no. Otzeiti means they were taken out of the mindset of servitude. They no longer felt as slaves mentally, psychologically. That's the taking out over here. And spiritually as well, you could say. And then Vitzalti, I took you out physically. First of all, there was a psychological redemption. Right? They understood we're no longer slaves. And then Vitzalti, then he took them out. Which makes sense. Because they ate the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim and they were free people. Right? So there had to have been a certain amount of freedom that came to them while they were still in Mitzrayim. That's number one. According to the Maharal of Prague. Makes sense? That means you could still be in Mitzrayim, you can still be imprisoned, but psychologically you're free. That's the principle we're learning from this. You can still be held as a captive, as they say, you can enslave my body, but you can't enslave my mind. You have that expression before? That's Anatoly Sharansky said that, actually. Yeah.
But for his second opinion, obviously they didn't have the mindset of being slaves if they weren't slaves.
You can still not be physically enslaved and still have a mindset of a slave. They still had a little bit of it,
No, that's
which
what
is
we
why they
said.
wanted to go back later.
So Otzeiti from what? From the physical or the
They'd
spiritual?
say this is a spiritual. There's a physical relationship to it, because once the Makot began, they weren't slaves, which happened like a year before. But there was a psychological and emotional freedom they went through in their minds, which then led them to Itzalti.
So spiritual.
He took them out of their mindset. That's how the
I
that's
feel
the
the way that
Seder.
it's worded, it should be opposite, because to take someone out sounds more like it sounds more physical to take you out of something
Yeah.
than to save you.
But even in English, we said, I took you out of that mind frame. I'm stuck somewhere, and you took me out of what I was stuck in. Maybe it even works in English. Yeah.
Just to clarify, number one can be interpreted in two ways. One is to take them out physically, and two is
Take them out from servitude while still being trapped. They were still in Mitzrayim at this point.
Okay.
But they weren't slaves anymore. But more importantly, it was their mindset. That's how they understand it. In honor of these four expressions, we drink 4 cups of wine. The fact there's a 5th cup means there has to be a 5th expression, which actually is called Veheveti, which comes later on. So the 5th cup of Eliyahu Navi is Veheveti, and that's a reference to the entry into Eretz Yisrael.
Oh wait, the 5th cup is for Eliyahu Navi?
Yes. We'll get to the 5th cup later. Hold on to the 5th cup. Don't drink it yet.
I've never done that.
We
Don't
didn't
drink
do
it.
that.
You must
we didn't
do it.
do that.
Yes, we did. I poured a 5th cup on the Seder table.
No, you don't pour, you leave it for Eliyahu Navi.
I left it there. What did I do? I poured it and I left it there.
Why didn't you tell us?
I said, this is in honor of Eliyahu Navi.
Oh.
Yeah, Sarah, are you doing that? Oh, Sarah, she was there.
Someone
Oh,
drinks
Sarah,
it.
she was
Did
there.
you hear
How's
him
Jordan?
say it?
Jordan was still a week late with that part.
Did you hear him say it?
Thank you, Jordan. You did, really? I did. I poured a 5th cup.
Really?
It was a big cup. I am surprised. Baruch Hashem. Turn up your page. Let's go. 75. What is the source of drinking these 4 cups? Says Rabbi Yochanan in the Gemara. Is derived from the verse that we said. Ve'hetzeti, ve'tzalti, ga'alti, ve'lakachti. This lakachti is Har Sinai, according to most opinions. Okay, so it started from Mitzrayim, ended up over here, and the ve'heveti, I brought you, refers to Eretz Yisrael, which is the cup of Eliyahu. We'll see why a little bit later. Let's have a look at the Maharal. The Maharal is very into numbers and he talks a little bit more about the number 4. Turn to page 76. It's a little bit deep, but it's a very beautiful piece. Very, very beautiful piece. He says like this. He says the number 4 goes like this. Everything that comes from the upper world into our world comes in 4 parts. There's always a number 4. The number 4 represents something from the spiritual world coming down into the physical world. It's the number of multiplicity. Okay, corresponding to, that's why there's 4 directions, right? There's 4 directions while you're in this world, right? We have north, south, east, and west. There's 4 directions. And there are therefore 4 expressions of redemption, which we just looked at. The secret of this, he says, now this is very deep, I'm not sure exactly what he means by this, but in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, there was a stream that came from Eden and then went into 4 directions. That, he says, is the source of it. There was a stream of water in Gan Eden and it went into 4 directions. He says that's the proof, whatever that means. That's the proof that anything that comes from Olam Haba that ends up in Olam Hazeh is divided into 4 worlds of diversity. Therefore, he says, that is represented, what started at Gan Eden, those 4 directions, ended up with Yetziat Mitzrayim in 4 directions as well. It came into 4 heads, which come to these 4 redemptions. And then he says, whatever that means, this explains the 4 cups of wine that we have as part of our Su'udah, which is rabbinic in nature. It's not a Torah mitzvah, it's a rabbinic mitzvah to drink 4 cups of wine. The eating the matzah talks about the redemption, as we already explained. And to this eating we add drinking, so which is further removed from physicality. Aha. So why wine is what we have to look at right now. He's making a coded expression. What does wine represent? When is wine used? Let's talk about this for a few minutes. Let's talk about wine. Yain. So when do we see wine is used in Jewish life? Let's discuss that for just a few minutes, and you'll learn something beautiful from here, which relates very much to what we're discussing. Yeah.
From Kiddush to Brit Milah.
So we make Kiddush, right, on Shabbat.
Yeah.
Right? A Brit Milah,
The wedding.
right? The Chuppah.
Chuppah's wedding.
Yeah, Chuppah's wedding. The Chuppah, yeah. And Kiddushin, yeah.
Probably they say also before like a Suda, especially around like in Purim, how they always have like meat and wine, so it's always like
So wine always represents Simcha. Wine represents Simcha. We drink it on Jewish holidays as well. Ein Simcha el b'yayin. Drinking wine makes you happy, which is why we drink it on Purim, because we're very, very happy. What is... So that's the Simcha thing, is its own thing, because it makes you happy. But what is it about these occasions? Shabbat, Brit Milah, Chuppah, and actually Jewish holidays as well. So wine represents a change. There's a change from one status to another. Right? Let me explain. On Shabbat, we go from Chol to Shabbat. We use wine to represent the transition from weekday to Shabbat, from Chol LaKodesh. A Brit Milah is a child goes from not being Jewish, although he is Jewish, to being part of the Jewish people. So they use wine as part of that as well. The Chuppah, we have a couple who have no relationship whatsoever to each other, and now the wine is used to show the transition. On Pesach, we use 4 cups of wine to represent Avdut L'chirut. So wine always represents that thing that goes from not to being. From not being to being. It's probably a better way to explain it. It's one way. Havdalah does the same thing. You go from Kedusha to Chol. It's also showing the transition. It's a point of transition of change. Wine represents change. It could be why we drink too much wine, you change too much. Right? But that's really what it does. And it's an enjoyable thing. We drink wine. But why wine? What is unique about wine that it even gets its own bracha in Judaism? So wine, first of all, comes to you by a very unusual method. You have these beautiful grapes on the vine, and they're sitting and they're all ripening. We take them, we crush them, and from the crushing comes this beautiful thing called wine. Okay? So even wine itself is a beautiful and amazing thing that represents transition, but even wine comes to us through challenge and difficulty. Put yourself in the grape's mind for a minute. Everything's fantastic, sitting out in the sun, all the other fruit get plucked and eaten, and in order to enjoy the best thing about the grape, it has to be crushed. So to the Jewish people are considered the wine people. Although we're very good at whining, As they say, what's the Jewish woman's favorite wine? I want to be in Miami for Pesach. You know. Yeah,
Punta Cana for Pesach.
okay, so so the wine represents change, but wine comes around seriously through challenge. So wine represents the sweetness from challenge. Yes, Abdullah Khairu, same thing. And that's why wine is the only liquid that has its own bracha, and we drink at the Seder, one, because we're happy, and actually, we'll see later on, the halach is you should drink wine. Actually, you should drink red wine. And by the end of the Pesach Seder, I remember my Rosh Hashiva saying this, he says that at the end of the Pesach Seder, you should be a little drunk. You should be a little drunk. You're celebrating. It's a celebration. And by the end, the redemption has come full, and you drunk wine, and there's a certain minimum amount you should drink. Actually, it's the only time you have to drink the entire glass.
What's the minimum?
Revi'it.
Of each of the four, though.
Yes, and actually the cup should be drained. Actually, you should drink kos maleh, and you should drink the entire cup. Well, see, that's why you shouldn't use a big cup. You should use a small cup, because if you use a big cup, you have to drain on Shabbat for make kiddush. You have malol logma, a cheekful, right? This is the entire cup should be drained. You should drink the entire thing, and you do it leaning. If you don't, you probably have to repeat it.
Is there like a certain amount of that you have to drink at that
Yes,
specific moment?
a revi'it.
Or can you drink like throughout the Seder?
No. You cannot drink without it. It has to be drunk in one
So you have to,
drinking. Then you get a little
chug
break.
it.
You got to chug. Yeah, you have to
I
chug
read
the
in
wine.
Grape juice is
that if you
right?
can't drink
No,
it
you should be
all
how
in
old are
that
you?
moment,
I'm not 21. I'm 19.
You're fine with grape juice then,
I
yeah.
read-
But for the rest of us who are over 21, Shani, for example, you should be drinking wine. What's the healthy?
And I did.
Once a year you'll be fine. Maybe the rest of the year everyone's drinking wine, knocking it back. Suddenly, oh no, care about my health.
No, I'm just
No,
Once
wine
a
you
year
don't-
you take wine, a revi'it. A revi'it is, as a minimum, 3.3 ounces. That's each shot glass. You know a shot glass?
No.
Why do you know that? That's better. Shot glass? Rabbi? What's a shot glass? I'm a student of Stone College. I got no idea what that is. It's so absurd. I should know such a thing. Right, shot glass, it's like 3.5 of those is a minimum. Some say up to 5 of those. But your average plastic cup, small plastic cup you use, is about 3/4 of that as a revi'it. That should be red. Now, it doesn't have to be like 10% red wine, right? You can use like a 3-4% alcohol in terms of that, but it should be filled to the top, the glass you use, and it should be drunk in its entirety.
And you can mix with grape juice.
Right.
You really shouldn't.
Oh.
You really should. I mean, if you cannot mix, it's going to make you sick or ill, then you have to do that. But otherwise, you should drink it over the course of the all 4 cups should be drunk. Yeah.
In the Arada, I don't know, but it said that if you can't drink it all at once, then you should drink it before before the next cup.
You should be drinking the entire thing in one go.
Like if you
Like
can't
one
drink
go?
it all one.
In one go, as in, yeah, you take a break, but you should drink it in one drinking.
I
You
I
can't
did,
drink
but
it
it
in
was so
one
hard.
situation.
Okay, fine. Then you have to have at least a revi'it before you get to that point. You have to revi'it at least in that first drinking. You should use this. So we'll talk about it. We'll get to halach. We'll do the halach of the Pesach. You should have like a smaller cup which holds more than revi'it, and it should be drained in every drinking. If you can't do wine, then you do red grape juice. Red grape juice is probably better than white wine. Well, it probably has a little bit of white wine would help.
Why?
Okay?
Why not white wine?
Because red. So red is important because red, they say, represents, first of all, redness adds beauty. The red wine looks more beautiful. It also say represents the blood, right? But red wine, yain adom. When you talk about wine in halachic literature and the Torah, it's always yain adom. So wine is always red, and therefore red wine should be
What's
used.
wrong with white color?
Nothing wrong with it. It's just not red.
Yeah, what about a rosé?
Okay,
What about rosé?
that's fine. It's like a blush. Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't have to be red. Just like it should have a redness to it.
We had dry wine.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
That's what I was.
Wasted.
What?
I was with
So simply, yes, v'samachta b'chagecha.
He was not with
Okay, so that's 2 things to know about wine. Shh, write it down. Wine is used at times of change. Here on Pesach, change from Avdul Lachirut. You drink wine because simcha. Ain simcha ela b'yayin, says the Gemara. So real happiness comes by drinking alcohol. And for us, we drink alcohol as a time of kedusha, of holiness. and it comes from grapes. The way it got to become wine, it went through challenge, and that also represents the difficulties of the redemption. Okay, so says the man. Let's go back to the Maharal now. That explains. It says the arba kasot of wine that you should have during the meal. So the matzah represents redemption, eating and drinking, which is further removed from coarse physicality than eating. So wine, although it's a physical thing, is considered a little bit. Oh, by the way, nichnas hayayin, yotzei hasod. The secrets come out from Purim. We discussed that. The wine goes in, the secrets come out. The real person comes out. The real happiness of the celebration comes out as well.
Isn't there a thing with wine that like it's the only, or grapes is the only fruit that like the bracha goes up?
Yes, that's exactly what you said. The bracha changes. It goes from ha'etz and shakol, it goes to brei geffen. It's the only liquid that has that redemption. It goes up in status. It's considered the greatest liquid, and its bracha comes before many others. It is for this reason the 4 cups of wine are drunk, corresponding to the spiritual redemption. So he says the eating represents the physical redemption, the drinking of the wine represents the spiritual redemption, because wine has a strong spiritual element to it. Fascinating. Yes.
What represented the physical?
One second, Audrey speaking.
Wait, what's
No problem.
Yeah, no, go on.
Okay, so now every time we drink wine, we have to make a borei geffen.
Absolutely. Whenever you drink wine, you make brei geffen. Absolutely. Even grape juice. It's not a shakal bracha. And once you make that bracha on wine, any other drinks you have are covered. You do not make a shakal. Even if you're eating a meal and you wash hamotzi, you have a drink of soda, you don't make a bracha on it, but you will make a bracha on the wine. It is not covered by the hamotzi bracha. It's so, absolutely. It is so special. Any wine you drink, you should make a brei geffen even during the meal after washing your hands.
So on Shabbat, is it the hamotzi or the wine that is covering all the other brachot?
It is the hamotzi covers all the other brachot, but not wine. It's not strong enough to cover because the wine is such a high status for us Jews, right? That it appears as its own bracha. Okay, that's it, brother. If you have the kiddush wine, then you don't need to make another hagefen. Yeah.
Can you repeat the phrase, nichnas hayayin?
Nichnas hayayin, the wine goes in. Yotzei hasod, the secrets come out. The real person comes out.
Where is that from?
That is from the Gemara. It may be in Tanakh somewhere. I don't recall it being in Tanakh. It's definitely not in the Torah. Somewhere in Nach, maybe Mishlei or something. It could be. It could be. Maybe Shlomo Melech said it somewhere in Mishlei. Look it up. What? Oh, I can't remember. I'm sorry. I wish I could. Okay, let's talk about the 5th cup. Now there's a 5th cup called the cup of Eliyahu Hanavi. Look at this fascinating piece. Turn to page 77, you're going to love this. So when the 4th cup is poured, says the Sefer Todah, of which we make halal over the. Remember, the meal does not. In Sanhedrin. Thank
You
you.
make halal over what?
Over the cups of wine. You hold up the 4th cup and you make halal, right? Because it doesn't end in Shulchan Aruch, as you realize. So you have 2 before and 2 after, and you make the bracha you're holding over halal, of which the halal is recited. It is customary to pour an additional cup which is bigger. So let's talk about the 5th cup.
You mean between the meal? There's the 2 before the meal, 2 after the meal?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. There's the 5th cup. We call it the cup of Eliyahu HaNavi, of Elijah the prophet. Let's talk about this cup and why we are drinking it. What does this cost? Shell.
When do we drink it?
Yeah, we don't drink it. It's left. It will be drunk in the future when Mashiach comes. We will get to drink of it. So why do we pour a 5th cup, which should be poured? It's put on the table in a larger cup. It must be a larger kos. And you fill it to the top. Oh, by the way, here's another point. Any koshel bracha, anytime you make a bracha, meaning a mitzvah, over a cup of wine, it must be maleh full. Okay? Some people see make kiddush over a cup half full. That is a mistake. Koshel bracha, maleh. A kos, a cup, you make a bracha, not just to drink or taste some wine during the week, but you make kiddush on Shabbat, you make bracha under the chuppah, which I've done Baruch Hashem many, many times, right? Chagim, Brit Milah, the kos should be full. Kos should be full. This is true as well with the kos Eliyahu. Has to be a bigger cup and full. Why is it bigger? And why aren't we drinking it? And why is it called the kos Eliyahu? He's going to explain that. Okay, it's called the kos Eliyahu. Why? It's based on a Gemara in Pesachim, which discussed the laws of Pesach. And Rabbi Tarfon said that one must drink 5 cups of wine at the Seder. He says you drink 5 cups. That's one opinion. Right? The 5th one being the halal is recited over. Some say no, only drink 4 cups. So when there is a dispute in the Gemara, what do they say? When there's a real dispute and they can't seem to make a decision one way or the other, it's called a teiku. You'll see it written in the Gemara, teiku. Taf, Yud, Kuf, Vav. What does teiku mean? Tishbi, which is a reference to Eliyahu Navi, the Tishbite. Yetaretz will answer Kushyat Urubayot. He's going to answer all of our questions. What does that mean? We don't know the answer, but when Mashiach comes, who will be announced by Eliyahu Navi, he's going to resolve all the questions we have in Jewish history, all of them, but even the ones in the Gemara, even every dispute, he's going to answer.
What's it called?
Teiku. You'll see it written in the Gemara.
What's
You don't have to worry.
again?
Teiku. It's a,
How do you
it's,
spell it? Taf, Yud, Kuf, Vav.
yeah. It's called a teiku. You'll see it written in the Gemara. Right? When you see in the Gemara, you're like teiku. When you see teiku, that means they didn't decide the halacha, it was left as a question. So there's a question, are there 4
Teko.
or 5 cups? Are there 4, teiku, are there 4 or 5 cups?
Teko is
So
a tie.
Tishbi, Yetaris, Kushya, Bayat. Tishbi, Eliyahu Navi will answer. We don't know right now. When Mashiach comes, we'll get the answer. So what do? We make a compromise, which is unusual. We usually don't do this. Make a compromise. We're going to drink 4, but we'll pour 5. We'll drink 4, but we'll pour 5. That's one answer. So why is it called Kosh Eliyahu? Because this coast, we don't know what to do with it. So when Eliyahu Navi comes, he's going to tell us, do we drink, do we not drink? Okay, that's interesting, but there's got to be more. And there is. And it goes like this. Check this out. Just as the 4 cups represent the 4 redemptions we spoke about, there is a 5th expression, a chamishit, right? Chamsa. The chamsa, the 5th one. What is that? That's the veheveti. Keneged, veheveti. I'm going to bring you. Heveti. I'm going to bring you. This is a reference to the arrival of the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael. The first 4 involve our redemption from Mitzrayim till we get to Har Sinai, which ended up with Hashem taking us to Him as an Am, Lakachti. We became the Jewish people at Har Sinai. So this is Har Sinai. Oh, what about Eretz Yisrael 40 years later? That's the Veheveti. That's the Veheveti.
That's Eretz Yisrael.
That's Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to bring you into the land. That's what it says. Veheveti etchem el haaretz. I'm going to bring you to the land. Hamura achareihem, which I mentioned. V'yafu remezet legula hachrona. 1 second. Did we get into Eretz Yisrael?
Yeah, but that wasn't the Gula.
Oh, then why aren't we drinking the 5th cup? According to this interpretation. And the answer is, it's a reference to the ultimate entry into Eretz Yisrael when Mashiach comes. So this Haveti did not happen yet. It did not happen yet. It's referring to the Yemot HaMashiach, which means that the Pesach Seder has gone from listen very carefully, goes from history to destiny. Say that again. The first part of the Pesach Seder is all about the Geula from Mitzrayim. That's history. But it's also talking about the destiny of the Jewish people getting into Eretz Yisrael once Mashiach comes, which will be the 2nd great redemption of the Jewish people. That's why we don't drink the 5th cup, because it hasn't happened yet. And that's why it's bigger than the other 4 cups, because the redemption is going to be greater. Can anyone, even those who are at my Pesach Seder this year, can anyone tell me what else we make bigger and put aside for the future at the Pesach Seder? Yeah? You going to say it? Afikomen. We cut the matzah, and the larger piece we hide away. It's safun. Right? It's the afikomen, it's the epikumen. Epikumen means the dessert, the bit that comes at the end. That's where afikomen comes from. Why do we do that? Because right now we're still in slavery. L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. So the larger matzah and the larger cup are left for the future. That's why you take the large piece of afikomen, right? You cut it a certain way, which I've become an expert in, dividing the afikomen, whip, whip, Right? It looks like Pac-Man, and you cut it up and you leave that for the future. Okay? So always the larger portion is left la'atid lavo, for the future time. So we don't drink the fifth cup because the fifth cup represents the redemption. Something else about the number 5. What do we know that the number 5 is represented by? So 5 fingers of the hand, say Chazal. Number 5 is the 5 fingers, the hand. So just like Hashem came into Mitzrayim and took us out, Hashem's hand will come and take us out himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is going to come into Galut and bring us into Eretz Yisrael. That's the Veti. Hashem is going to capture us, take us with his hand, and the hand is always a sign of a promise. You shake a hand. It's a promise. It's a guarantee. Yaakov Avinu made sure that the promise of the redemption would come with Eliyahu Navi, and made him show his hand as if to say, through this hand, I'm going to come and the redemption will happen. So the number 5 represents a promise of redemption. Right? Look at this, by the way. One last thing. I'm sorry. Put your hands up for 1 second. Let me just show you. I'm actually mentioning this in my new book, available on Amazon. That how do we depict the number 5? How do we the number 5? How do we? No.
Oh, like.
On a dice. What does number 5 look like?
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's my 4. They're the 4 corners of the earth, and then the 5's in the middle. The 5 pulls it together. It's the 5th that comes in, goes in, and takes out. So that's the redemption. The redemption is taking the Jewish people on all 4 sides of the world and boop, gather them together into one place, into one makom. And that's going to be Eretz Yisrael. Right? It's centralized, it brings in these 4. So the number 5, this figure is not a Jewish number. Right? That design. But when you have 4 dots, that's how it's represented. Happens to be exactly like that. The 5 is what pulls, or everything else which is dispersed comes together to one central point. That's the Haveti, that's the redemption of the Jewish people, and that happens to have a Mashiach. So why are we bringing last point? Why is Eliyahu Navi representing this? Because Eliyahu Navi is the one who's going to announce the arrival of Mashiach. Right? Hashem is going to send Eliyahu Navi to come the prophet, which means prophecy arrives before Mashiach comes, and he's going to announce the redemption of the Jewish people. So this part of the Seder is not about Mitzrayim anymore. It's about the future redemption of the Jewish people, which is why it occurs at the end, which is why we don't drink the 5th cup, and the 5th cup is left undrunk. Yes?
I wanted to know if there's a halachic origin of hiding the command and when to...
Yes, absolutely. The Gemara talks about it. We do that. First of all, we hide it to say that the future redemption is hidden right now. You get it? It's hidden. But also we hide it when we want the kids to grab it. And the Gemara talks about it, Rabbi Akiva used to do the same thing in order to keep the kids awake. So we use it as a way to keep the kids awake, but also to teach them that the big stuff is in the future. The best is yet to come. But we do it to keep the kids interested. We'll see why we talk about children. Yeah?
When you say the hand brought us out, like I'm just curious if you're referring to the chronology. Is it at the sea? You're not talking about the plagues at that point, right?
No. We're talking about these 4 signs. The plagues were part of this, but Hashem took us out, right? It says, Biyad chazakah u'v'zura tuya, with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Hashem himself took us out.
And that's
he used his hand. What does that mean? He used his hand. The hand is the anthropomorphic idea of activity. That's what it does. So Hashem used his hand to take us out. It's a personal thing, and he himself stretched his hand in. Just like you take the baby out, you pull out with a hand, right? So the Jewish people pulled out by the hand as well. Not by a malach or a saraf, by Hashem himself.
And it's talking about at the sea?
The whole process.
Because I heard that it was like a finger for the plagues, but a hand for the sea.
Oh, I like that.
That was my Torah.
Very nice. I missed that one, sorry. Oh, that's very good. I like that.
I was just wondering if that was...
Yeah. I like that. Could well be. Very good, Jules. Very good. Yes.
So with the 5, with the dice,
Yeah.
I find it really cool because Israel happens to be in the Middle East. So it's the middle of the world. And then bringing...
That is not a coincidence. It's the entry point from east to west. Okay? That could be why that piece of land was actually chosen.
And also, we leave the 5th cup, right?
Yeah.
But let's say like my mom's cleaning up the Pesach Seder, she's just gonna throw it out.
Just walk
What's the
right
deal? Just throw it out? I don't like that.
I thought it gets.
I don't like being gullets either.
No. It's like we're giving up.
We're not giving up.
No, why? But you keep it all night.
And then the next day throwing it out. Still throwing it out.
You don't really keep it all night.
All night. You keep it all night. What are you talking
The
about?
sages of the generation have explained that the
You don't
fifth
keep
cup
it
I
all
will
night?
bring you, hints you can. At the complete and final Geulah, they'll be ushered with Eliyahu, with the final redemption, the fall of the Am. So there were 4 kingdoms. Here's another one. There were 4 Galiot we went through, 4 exiles. There was Bavel, remember this? There's Paras and Madai, Yavan and Edom, and Gog and Magog, they say is going to be the 5th one, and that's going to be the final vanquish of evil in this world, which will herald Mashiach. So number 5 also represents the 5th, and actually according to many, there's a 5th Galut of Yishmael, of Adam.
Babylon, Greece, Romans.
Bavel,
Yeah.
Babylonians, Paras and Madai, Yavan, and Edom. Right? And this represents the 5th one, which has yet to be conquered and vanquished. Okay? This is the line with the fact that the Torah calls the Seder night a Leil Shimurim, a night of protection. You're safe that night. That's why you open the door, let Eliyahu Navi in. Right? By the way, why you bring Eliyahu Navi? Right? No one's having a Brit Miller at the table. What's he doing at my Pesach Seder? You're saying, come, let's go. Take it. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. You take us out of this galut. So we're pushing him to come in. We're saying, here's the cup, ready for you to drink. We're pushing and pulling Eliyahu Navi. My friend once, many years ago, his father, he was an older man, used to open the door, so he snuck out beforehand, put a white sheet on his head, and came to the door. He opened the door, he was standing there with a white sheet on his head. No, but it was very funny. Okay, V'layla's there. Leil Shumer. It's called, one second. Leil Shumer, a night of protection. The Jewish people were protected that night. No one could hurt us. That's true for every Pesach night. It's also a night for Israel in all generations. The first part of the night is vote of the redemption from Egypt. Right, so that's why it occurs at the end of the night, meaning the Pesach Seder ends at the end, because night represents galut, darkness, yeah? So night is galut. So we pour that 5th cup at the end. We pour that 5th cup at the end, as if to say the night is over, now we're going to day.
Day is redemption?
Day is redemption. Nighttime, because nighttime is Erev, it's more everything mixed up, it's difficult, it's challenging. We go to day. So at the end of the night, which is when the Pesach Seder is meant to finish, you go into light, you go into daytime. Okay, that's why it occurs at the end. That's what he says here as well. Okay? And it was actually Eliyahu Navi who comes into the Pesach Seder to usher in the final redemption.
Is that why they say that the Mashiach will come on Pesach? I've heard this.
Possibly. The Gemara does say that possibly.
You know what's so scary? The Holocaust happened when people were after Pesach Seder. That's very scary. That's like the opposite of redemption.
There have been many challenges come to us at the time, yeah. Page 78. So let's look at Micah. So Micah is talking about the final redemption, the prophet Micah. And he says, this is important, just as Hashem redeemed us in Mitzrayim, so too Mashiach, meaning that the redemption of Mashiach will eclipse the redemption of Mitzrayim. It will be greater. So much so that we won't need Pesach anymore when Mashiach comes, according to many opinions. It won't be necessary, because the second redemption will be greater than the first, and the first will become obsolete.
You said that with Purim. You said Purim would stay.
Purim as well, that's what shows us. But the actual redemption of Mitzrayim is compared to the redemption of Mitzrayim as well, of Mashiach.
I thought we're still going to celebrate Purim even this year.
Yeah,
Purim, yeah. Purim somehow we're going to keep
Does
that.
that mean that miracles will be
Pesach,
bigger?
no.
Yeah.
Yes, potentially. If we earn it, we'll have better.
Our
Not
prayers will
necessarily.
change also.
There's going to be a big change. Okay. Let's turn to page 79. Let's talk about. Did I do this with you yet?
What?
Adam Nifal Kapi Ulatav. I've done it somewhere.
Why didn't you?
Okay. You see that
Yeah,
there
we
are
did it.
many. We did
Every
it.
time.
We did not here. Not in this
Not here,
class.
no.
Okay. So let's have a look at a famous piece of chinuch. The Sefer Chinuch, which gives us reasons for the mitzvot, talks about the Pesach Seder, right, which is mitzvah 16, to remember the exodus from Egypt. And he says something very, very interesting. He makes we have this all down, peeps?
Yeah.
Okay. He makes the following very interesting statement. He says, you'll notice when it comes to Pesach, we have a lot of mitzvot that are plugged in to the redemption. We have many mitzvot. First, we have many mitzvot in general that talk about Mitzrayim, with the mezuzah and Shabbat, tefillin. Or no, maybe there's like 40, 50 mitzvot that mention Yetziat Mitzrayim. But even on Pesach Seder, right, we're going to do 7 mitzvot at the Seder table. 7 mitzvot. Some of them Torah, some of them rabbinic, but it's loaded in. And then you have the Pesach mitzvah before, get rid of the chametz, right? Prepare. So he is trying to figure out why there are so many mitzvot dedicated to Pesach. That's his question. Why are there so many mitzvot that are dedicated to this particular holiday? On Sukkot, sit in the Sukkah, Dalada Minim. Shalom al Yisrael, you're done. Right? Even that's connected to Pesach, by the way, to the redemption, Yetziat Mitzrayim. But many other mitzvot you just do once and that's it. Suddenly Pesach comes along and we have a lot of them. And there's so many details involved in it. So he wants to answer that question and he does it very, very interestingly. Let's finish with this. Okay, follow with me. Everyone look inside, page 79. He says, Ra'ui lanu, it is fitting for us. Lasod masim, to do actions. To do actions. It is fitting for us to do actions. Hamarim banu, mamala gadola, to demonstrate, right, the redemption from Egypt. Ba'otosha at that time. Uvetocha maaseh, and through the action, vahadimyon. This is important. You're going to realize this. Dim yon, through our imagination. Put it down, Rena. Through our imagination as well. So we're going to do actions, and you have to imagine what our ancestors went through. We have maror, bitter herbs, leaning, matzah. There's a lot going on. This is there to do 2 things. 1, action, and 2, help us imagine. There's a mitzvah to imagine your eye, to relive what our ancestors went through. These are actions and symbols, the experience, the exercise to imprint onto our consciousness. Right? Nikva benafshotenu hadavar liolam, forever. Okay. V'al tachshov, and don't, you might ask, Bani, my son, he's talking to his son, he wrote this for his son. First al divrei halomar, right? The question of those. Why do we have to do so much and so many mitzvot in the Torah, but even at the Pesach Seder, to remember the one miracle that Hashem took us out? There are many miracles in Jewish history. Why are we adding so many actions over here? Wouldn't it be enough just to think about it, he says? Just think about it, sit around, let's discuss it, play the guitar, sing about how Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, we were slaves, and Dayenu. Why are we doing so much? That's his question. Da, he says, you should know. And this is the famous treatise. If you have a yellow marker, I'd use it to go over this line right now. He gives a very, very famous statement that's been mentioned. Like, he actually mentions it in a couple of places, but it's considered to be a classic statement about Judaism and life in general. And it's a very deep statement, but he applies it here. He learns it out from here in Pesach. Ki hadam nifal kafi polatav. A person is influenced by their actions.
Where is that?
Sounds like Mishlei.
Let's examine the statement for just a minute.
Where on the page?
Action speaks louder than
The 3rd paragraph.
Right. We're on the 3rd paragraph down in the Hebrew. Adam nifal kafi polatav. A person is influenced by their action. That's a general statement, by the way. Now, what's so unusual about that? Because we usually say a person's influenced by their thoughts. Change your thoughts, and you'll change your life. Right? You go to therapy, you go wherever you go, you sit, someone talks to you, I feel better about myself. He's like, that may be true, but there's something greater than thoughts, that's action. We are the people of action. Remember Avram Avinu did Ma'asim. It's all about action. If you change what you do with your body, you will change your life as well.
It's like fake it until you make it, no?
kind of.
Okay, but we're not faking you. We're doing something real.
No, but.
But you're going to do actions. Yeah, your outside is going to affect your insides. Let's have a look at how he explains it. He gives fascinating insight into this. Check this out. The libo, your heart, v'chol machshvotav, all your thoughts, tamid achar ma'asav shu osek bahem, is always going to follow your actions. Im tov, im ra, whether your actions are good or bad. And he goes further. For example, let's you have a person who's a complete degenerate, terrible person, rasha gamur. However, he starts to feel, I've got to improve myself, and he doesn't change his mind. He's still a bad person. He doesn't also do terrible things, but he starts to change some actions. He puts a coin in the pushkin, it's a tzedakah box. He starts to do small things. He says, once he does that action, he's on his way to becoming a tzaddik. He or she is on their way to becoming a tzaddik. The actions change the person. Even though in his mind, he's still thinking bad things. And then he says the opposite is true as well. You'll have a person who thinks about good things. By the way, even if they change their actions, lo l'shem shemayim, they give tzedakah because they want to have their name on the wall, it's still going to affect them. And he says the opposite is true as well. Let's say you have a person who all day thinks about doing good. I want to help the world. And they just talk, but they do nothing with it. And they get involved in doing stupid things. That person may seem like a great person. They're on their way, he says, to bad things. Right? Adam tzaddik gamor v'levo yeshatam. He's got a good straight heart. The one before the last paragraph. Chafetz b'torah mitzvot. He wants to do Torah mitzvot. Im yasok tamid dvarim shel dofi. They get involved in stupidity with their actions. Kilu tomad derech mashal v'echrichu hamelech v'aniu ra'ah. This person, even if they're forced to do it, at some point will turn into a degenerate. Right? Because even the strongest person is influenced by their actions. Why? So that's why he says, a person who is shaped by the actions, we need to do many mitzvot in order to remember Pesach, because if we spoke about it, discussed it, it's never enough. You have to act out upon it. And that's why all the mitzvot in the Torah except six mitzvot are done with your mind. The rest of them involve action. There are 6 constant mitzvot that a person does with their mind, but all the rest of them involves, you have to clean the house for Pesach. You have to give tzedakah. You've got to give something to the Kohen Levi, right? You've got to daven and pray on Yom Kippur and do Teshuvah. There's always an action. You've got to hear the shofar, or someone's doing it for you. There's something you're doing. All the other mitzvot involve something. And he says, that's because for us, remembering involves action. You've got to do something. Talking about it is never enough. There has to be an action, some physical. Even denying yourself something physically is considered something. And thereby, you create a memory. Okay? And then he says, and that's why. Ki adam nifal k'fi polotav. A person is influenced by their actions.
What's the term? What's the phrase that you just said?
Adam nifal k'fi polotav.
Got it. Sorry.
Got it?
Yeah.
So that's the famous treatise of Sefer Chinuch, and he mentions it here, and he mentions it again, if I remember correctly, by the mitzvah of Sukkah. Because Sukkot comes along and you're building a sukkah, buying a lulav, daled minim, you're shopping around, all right? You're going on Chag, you're going to Yerushalayim in the old days, about Jordan.
What are the 6 mitzvot that you do with your mind?
6 mitzvot are fearing Hashem, loving Hashem, not following our hearts and eyes.
You have to remember that.
Believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
You have to remember what Amalek did, and you have to remember.
I don't know if one of the 6. That's a mitzvah. That's one of the 6 Torah mitzvot. 6 mitzvot. I'll have a look. And Sefer Chinuch he brings down. I'll look it up.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, what about Zechor at Yom Shabbat? That's
Same thing. They learn at Zechor Shabbat. You have to make kiddush, light the candles. You've got to do actions.
no, but wait. What do we say? Zechor is more like your mind.
No,
or more
he said
like
Zachor.
action?
No, we did not say that. We said Zachor to remember. How do you remember? By doing all the positive mitzvot of Shabbat.
That's not Shemor.
And the Shem. No, the Shamor is not doing malacha. You guard it by not breaking it. Zachor equals positive mitzvot. So the Rambam makes that connection. He says Zachor at a Pesach, you do by doing the mitzvah of Pesach Seder. Zachor Shabbat, you fulfill by doing all the mitzvot of the Shabbat tables. It's exactly what the Rambam says. Yeah.
Nifal means influence.
Yeah, nifal k'fi will. Yes, person is influenced by their actions. Okay, great class. We'll see you all on Tuesday. What is it today? Wednesday.